like what happened in the last 2 days. I just want you to know many of us Americans do not support what Trump's doing at all. Like, if you voted for him, if you voted for this person, and this is not to make this political, but sometimes things are political. But if you voted for Trump thinking he was going to make America great again, he's doing the opposite. First off, all of our allies, they're gone. I know, like all the Trump supporters, they live in some narcissistic Delulu land. They do. They live in a narcissistic Delulu land. And I thought, okay, I'm willing to give Trump a chance. Like I didn't think he was the best president all the time, but I was willing to give him a little tiny chance because I'm like, well, he's gonna be president now. What are you gonna do about it? But my mom was like, have you read the book by Mary Trump? And I said, no, I haven't. Okay, so I've started to read this book, Too Much and Never Enough. I've started to read it. Like, I didn't think much about it before. I'm like, I don't want to spend every minute thinking about Donald Trump. But here's the problem. When you're a U.S. citizen living in your country and your country's making bad decisions left and right and center that are not in the interest of the American people, yes, I'm going to think about it. For instance, he has broken our Constitution. He federalized the National Guard when people were peacefully protesting what ICE is doing. And now, like, he loves confusion. In fact, one of the things Mary said, like, I'm still in the beginning pages, but she says that he lives on division. The atmosphere of division my grandfather created in the Trump family is the water in which Donald has always swum. The division continues to benefit him at the expense of everybody else. It's wearing the country down just as it did my father, changing us even as it leaves Donald unaltered. It's weakening our ability to be kind or believe in forgiveness, concepts that have never had any meaning for him. His administration and his party have become subsumed by his policies, his politics of grievance and entitlement. Worse, Donald, who understands nothing about history, constitutional principles, geopolitics, diplomacy, and anything else really, has never pressed to demonstrate such knowledge, has evaluated all of this country's alliances and all of our social programs solely through the prism of money, just as his father taught him to do so. Okay? I'm reading this book right now. This is the book of the moment, okay? Because at first I thought, I mean, I know Mary Trump was like, she was disappointed when he was elected the first time. And I was like, oh, what are we going to do about it? I didn't vote for him. And then the second time, I was kind of confused, but I'm like, okay, let's give him a chance. He's not doing anything good right now. What is Iran? No. Like how he bombed Iran. Like, okay, I'm not saying that like Iran has the best government ever. Like, yeah, the way that they treat women is horrible in Iran, but it's up to the Iranian people within to decide to have regime change. It is not up to the US to bomb them, to help bomb them. Like, we shouldn't start unprovoked wars. This is worse. Like, I know people were like after Bush and Cheney, but what Trump is doing makes Bush and Cheney look like peacemakers, okay? And I'm not even saying George Bush Jr. was the best. He wasn't the best. But, you can't even like legitimize going to war in Iraq like we did. That wasn't the best thing. But at the end of the day, this is worse. This is 20 times worse. Like, it's just unprovoked. It's 20 times worse. And guess what? You know how Trump told us that he's all about making everything really inexpensive, like bolstering the American economy? Who has control of oil? Iran. And guess what they did? They're blocking off access to 1/5 of the world's oil. I know, like, the Trumpies are just gonna be like, oh, he's so great. He makes these good decisions. You guys are following a narcissist, and maybe you guys are narcissists yourself. And I I don't want to be political. Like, I hate I mean, I'm interested in world affairs, and I don't want to make it like, oh, the left and the right is better. I don't know if I completely agree with that, Mike. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, these things must happen." Because I'm going to tell you this. People have been saying that about wars for hundreds of years. And I'm nominally Christian, but I also say that, I agree with some of the teachings of Islam. And, sometimes ways that Muslims look at the world like make more sense to me, like Sufi Muslims, than like Christians. So I want to say this is predicting the end times. I'm not going to say that because I think that's a stretch. And a lot of Christian groups have said this war and this conflict's predicting the end times, but the end times did not come. I believe in God, but I don't believe in the people that use like a specific event to say this is predicting the end times. Don't fall for that trap. Um, well, that's fine. You can do whatever you want, but I'm saying just I would be very careful to say that certain events are predicting in the world because a lot of Christian groups have said this war, this conflict, like they said that about World War One. Okay, nope. I'm just not going to go there. I do not believe the world is coming to an end. I'm not a doomsdayer. Don't believe that. I just believe that Trump isn't a good president. And I believe that people who support him need to wake up and think, I know, like, I don't know. Like a lot of people, I don't go to protests, by the way. I'm not going to go protest. That's not my grape jelly jam. But it's a First Amendment right to peacefully protest. And many people have been peacefully protesting. And a woman got hit by a car in Riverside for like exercising her First Amendment right. And that's disgusting. Like somebody literally purposely, intentionally hit her with a car. And then a woman accomplice I don't see, being a Freemason, I don't believe in that whole Illuminati thing either. That's leaning into conspiracy theory, and I don't like I had a great uncle that he went to the Freemasons. I'm not a Freemason, but it's not what I don't buy into that. Like I'm looking at this in a logical, we're going to do logic. We're going to look at this in a just a very logical way. So, this is what I see. I see that we need to start assessing what the world community sees, and we need to start taking in knowledge. And with social media, you can't lie anymore. Like you can't say, "Oh, like I know in the past people are going to be like, we're going to go to a war in Iraq," but I knew back in 2003 that we shouldn't be going to that war. Like I knew that, right? I knew that. And I was like, wait, those aren't the people that like created 9/11. That wasn't them. So, like the whole like justification for that war was baseless. We shouldn't have been in that war. 100% no. That's not some we should have done, my opinion. Because I'm more like there were necessary wars like World War One, World War Two, but the Iraq War, we should not have been there. We shouldn't have done that. And yes, I think under Bush it was a little bit different. Like even though that war caused a lot of pain, like the soldiers at that time were like sent out to build schools and government buildings, and that's not like Donald Trump's intent. Like he's not like and Hegseth, they're not doing these things because they want to go like help a country they might destroy. Well, they shouldn't be bombing Iran in the first place because it's unprovoked. They didn't attack us. So why are we attacking them? And then it leads into a lot of geopolitical stuff that where I had a falling out with somebody, and I feel like I kind of maybe I talked about it too much, but I think I talked about it just because I realized what it was it was a manipulation where this person like look, I do believe Israel has a right to exist. Oh, I don't watch TV. I'm just gonna delete that because first off, I read deeply and I look deeply and I don't watch TV. It sounds like you don't read articles. Like, I'm talking about articles I read. I'm talking about social media posts and like having a degree in history. So, boop, out the door with that. So, I just deleted your comment. There you go, Spaghettio. So, here's the thing, we're not coming from this with a conspiracy theory mindset. You know, boop, boop. You know, that's another thing. It's one of those people. It sounds like that's kind of somebody that's going to support Trumpy. They don't lie in articles. You shouldn't read. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Because I hate to say that, but this is something that a lot of Americans, you will hear Americans say specifically, don't read news articles. Don't look up social media posts about what's really happening in different countries. Don't read texts. Don't become knowledgeable, but go on websites and learn about the Freemasons and believe that this is a sign of the end times. No, that is not. That's not it. I want to have a rational discussion about how I don't think Trump's a good president. I don't think he should be in office. And a lot of people that were really heated against him, like a few months ago, like I kind of was like, I don't want to have that anger. I don't want to have that energy. I didn't think he was a good president. I didn't like the way that he didn't like gracefully step down when he didn't win the election in 2020. I don't like how he agitated people towards Mike Pence. I don't like any of that. But, once he was our president again, I was like, what are we going to do about it? We should give him a chance. I didn't think anything. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, but we had super inflation under Biden and he was incomprehensible and somebody else might have been running the country. And those things may be true. I do think that Joe Biden was in some mental decline during his presidency. I don't think he should have been the one that the Democrats put up in 2020. I don't know why they decided to put him up, but that was their decision. It was kind of a weird year. But the conspiracy theorists, they're going to say, well, it's because of the Illuminati. No, it's not because of the Illuminati. That's not the case. The thing is, I don't have problems with either Republicans or Democrats, but it's just gotten to the point in this country where the people in power, they love to create controversy. And Donald Trump is also, one of my thoughts on him bombing Iran is 100% wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. That's what I've been saying since the beginning. This is an unprovoked war and it's going to cause prices to go up, and it could cause a lot of havoc for everybody in the world community. It's a bad choice. I read a paragraph out of Mary Trump's book where she talks about how Donald Trump was brought up under dysfunction and disharmony, and he doesn't believe in becoming informed about events even as a president, which is to our detriment. But his fans, they will follow him. Because they treat like being Make America Great Again, they treat it like a religion, And I didn't want to be like super political about it because I just felt like in the last few years, the elections have just become so heated where people are like, oh, they treat it like a religion. And even though I lean more left, I kept hoping there would be somebody else, I guess, besides a Democrat or a Republican that would be poised to rise to lead the country. But I kind of came back to wanting to just be a Democrat again, just because, the third party people, they don't have a big enough following. And a lot of them just have crackpot ideas that I don't really like personally. And I'm just going to be more centrist after this. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to be more centrist after this. Very centrist, because there's no point in like following these third parties. I think they're good in theory, but I've kind of come to the conclusion, and you can believe whatever you want to believe, and like fiscally and just like centristly responsible Republicans I've never had a problem with, like John McCain. Even George Bush Jr., like he doesn't look that bad now, like compared to what we have since the Trump years. Like it just seems like it's becoming worse and worse. But a lot of Americans that voted for Obama voted for Trump. But I think that people aren't thinking these things through when they vote for him, because he'll say one thing that they like, and some people are like, oh, I voted for him because of this one thing he said. But here's the thing, even if you voted for him, that's fine. Like if you voted for him twice, whatever. But I think now he needs to be impeached because we gave him over 100 days to see what he would do to improve the economy, to improve diplomacy, foreign relations. And I hate to say it, um, if you're a country in the world community, you have to get along with others. If you think you don't have to get along with others and you can just make friends with other narcissists, that's a problem. And I know Trump just thinks that he can be like that and he can do whatever he wants, which he is. But it's just not, it's not a good look in my view. It's not a good look in my view. Like, I feel like we need to have a president who's stable, who is thoughtful, who doesn't provoke other countries, who is not starting senseless wars. And a lot of us are peace-driven people. Like, we believe in the peace movement. And I'm going to tell you, this is one reason I will never support libertarians again. Like, because a lot of libertarians, like, I don't think they ever believed in peace. Like, I know some of them did. Some of them did. But a lot of them have talked about how they voted for Trump and they think he's great. But I think it's delusion, because they claimed that they wanted small government and they didn't want people involved in their affairs. But everything he's doing is the opposite of that. Like, for instance, there's just a lot of things people need to read up on. Like, they said that immigration, the undocumented immigration, was like the biggest topic and concern for Americans. But I don't think so. I think that some interest group said that was the biggest concern. And if you actually do some research and you look at some papers that people put out, especially by the Immigration Council, there's a paper about how nowadays, if most Americans were immigrants and they wanted to come to this country based on their social standing, their economic wealth, their job opportunities, they want to be able to immigrate to this country. Before the year 1900, there was virtually no like immigration requirements. There were no visa requirements. Well, especially for Europeans and white people. Like for Middle Eastern people, there were more. Like my great-grandfather, he wasn't able to automatically become a citizen of the United States. He had to fight in World War I because he was from Syria. Like, and I think that's why a lot of Middle Eastern people, like, even though they are lighter skinned, like, they're not European white per se, but I think that's why a lot of them said that they were white so they could try and get citizenship. Because up until 1924, Native Americans, people who are indigenous to this country, could not be recognized as U.S. citizens. And it was our immigration has always valued, like, letting white people come without, like, as many qualifications. And even nowadays, too, like, if you're a rich white person, it's much easier to become a legal immigrant in this country or not be. Why am I going to go to my living room? Yeah, so I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Like, if you look at immigration, it's either people were forced to come here as slaves, or they were kind of coerced into it as indentured servants, which there were a lot of white people at the beginning of time that were. But I know a lot of people are like, oh, like, white people are being mistreated nowadays, and like, oh, people that are not white, like, they have more opportunities than us. But that's not really true. There is a lot of there's been a lot of racism in this country, and we've had to overcome a lot of that. And up until the 1960s, like, there were places that didn't even want black people to go to school, like if it was a predominantly white school. There were schools in the American South up until like I think 2010 when Morgan Freeman actually paid for some school in Mississippi to have an integrated mall, not mall, prom. I was going to say integrated prom. I'm just like, so there is that history of like of white people having treated people that are non-white as lesser than. And I know a lot of white people say nowadays, like the ones that follow Trump, because there is a little bit of white nationalism that kind of circulates in MAGA. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, but like we're African American or we're Hispanic and we voted for Trump. And that's fine. You can vote for him if you want. But you have to remember at the end of the day, a lot of the people like that are part of his core MAGA group is based on white nationalism. Like a lot of what they're doing right now, where they are going after certain undocumented workers. Like, do you think they're going after rich white people that might have come into the country, like in not such great circumstances? No, because those people could buy their way into the country. Because money, like if you look at the current immigration standard, like you have to have a lot of money, a lot of like, you have to have a good job, you have to have a lot of recommendations. Like if you're somebody that just wants to have a somewhat better living income, work, I don't know, in a strawberry field, which by the way, most Americans will not do those jobs. They won't. And people are like, oh, but they will. No, they wouldn't, because a lot of people, like my sister, and I'll tell you how I know this, because my sister worked at a hotel for 3 days, okay? And she was cleaning rooms. And most of the people were undocumented that she worked with. My sister has worked in environments where she worked with undocumented people, and they told her that they were super surprised that she would come work for a lower wage, which was about minimum wage, and do that hard manual labor, because a lot of people wouldn't, that are American, wouldn't do that. And it's not always just white. I'm talking about, it could be any ethnicity really. Like most people aren't going to want to go work long hours like that, like doing those hard jobs. They're just not, like in strawberry fields, and all this produce. And that's the thing, like we had corporations, we had our own government that brought in undocumented workers for centuries, not centuries, generations, okay? But the whole idea of who's a legal person and an illegal person, a undocumented person, is a very new concept. Like, and it's transformed like within the last century. Like, it's a new concept within the last century. Because I can guarantee you this, if you're somebody from the Midwest that's predominantly white, and you look at your ancestry and you look at how your ancestors came here, they probably wouldn't be able to come here today under the current, like, it'd be much harder. I'm not saying that they couldn't, but it'd be much more difficult for many people to immigrate now than it was like 200 years ago, when there were no rules and regulations about it. And I know some people are really mad that some people jumped the border and they came to work, but here's the thing. These people are not all criminals. Like, there are some criminal elements that like will smuggle people across the border, the human trafficking elements, but a lot of these people, like statistically speaking, like they have lower crime rates than US citizens. So why are we targeting like these people? I don't need your wealth, honey, dear. You're cute. I'm just talking about, this whole undocumented worker thing, when it started in the 1940s and 50s with the Becerra Project, with the US government like encouraging farms and encouraging corporations to bring undocumented workers into the country, especially like during World War II, when there was like a shortage of workers due to people going off to war. Like, so it's just funny. And corporations continue to hire people that were undocumented. They knew about it. A lot of the politicians that claim that they're against undocumented workers, that's not true. Trump has a history of hiring undocumented people to work in his like hotels. to work in his little empire. So I just think it's kind of silly. Like, why now? Like, why is this the issue? I don't believe this was the biggest issue. We have a lot of American born citizens, like crime rate. Like, if you ever watch Unsolved Mysteries or Dateline or a lot of those shows, like, I mean, they are solving a lot of cold cases, but there's a lot of people that disappear under mysterious circumstances, and they find out later on it was a homegrown citizen who did these things. There's a lot of people that commit different crimes, and they find out it was homegrown people in this country, born in this country. It wasn't like somebody who came across the border to go work, like building houses, landscaping. And to be honest with you, a lot of people that might be undocumented, they're like some of the hardest workers. Okay, they might not have come here in what you call legal ways, but at the time they wanted a better life for their family. So I can't see what was best for them. And then you have to think back to everybody else's ancestors who came. They didn't have a documentation process. There was no documentation process back then. And so now it's hard to say, like, your ancestors might not even be able to immigrate to the US. So it just feels like that's not the issue that we should all be arguing about. And I don't think it's being handled the right way. And I think Biden handled immigration just fine. Although I don't think Biden was exactly running the country. I think it was other people in his administration. But I think the country functions better under Democrats. Oh no, I know a lot of people are going to say, no, that's not true. Well, it even functioned better under George Bush and Ronald Reagan. So I think my opinion is, just from what I'm seeing right now, the country is not functioning well under Trump. But you know, if you want to believe that he has created the best environment, and that not having allies and being a total narcissist and creating division and not having empathy for people is the way to go, then yeah, support him. But every day he loves division and friction. I should read that paragraph again. Where did that go? Okay, so here's the book. Too Much and Never Enough. The atmosphere of division my grandfather created in the Trump family is the water in which Donald Trump has always swum. The division continues to benefit him at the expense of everybody else. And that means pretty much everybody else. It's wearing the country down just as it did my father, changing us even as it leaves Donald unaltered. It's weakening our ability to be kind or believe in forgiveness, concepts that have never had any meaning to him. His administration and his party have become subsumed by his politics of grievance and entitlement. Worse, Donald, who understands nothing about history, constitutional principles, geopolitics, diplomacy, or anything else really, and was never pressed to demonstrate such knowledge, has evaluated all of this country's alliances and all of our social programs solely through the prism of money, just as his father taught him to do so. The costs and the benefits of governing are considered in purely financial terms, as if the U.S. Treasury were his personal piggy bank. To him, every dollar going out was his loss, while every dollar saved was his gain. In the midst of obscene plenty, one person using all of the levers of power and taking every advantage at his disposal would benefit himself conditionally, his immediate family, his cronies, his sycophants. For the rest, there would never be enough to go around, which was exactly how my grandfather ran our family. There was never enough to go around. So I don't know. I didn't really think much about this book. My mom gave it to me back in Christmas. I know she was really, like, my mom was like, she was really, I don't know, she was troubled by people re-electing Trump, but I was like, okay, I'm not thrilled by him. Let's just wait, let's see. But this last 6 months have been a wild ride, and not a, I don't think it's good. But I will tell you this title, Too Much and Never Enough, this exemplifies a lot of things that I've come to see about people, politics, why a lot of the third party people, or just libertarians in general, just they don't care about anybody but themselves. Like, they always talk about personal liberty and wanting a small government. Like, they talk about that, like that's their grape jelly jam. And there are some libertarians that truly believe that in their core, that they don't believe in, they believe in the non-aggression principle. They wouldn't go, like, a true libertarian would not want to bomb Iran unprovoked, or no, they wouldn't want our country participating in that. And because that's not to our benefit at all. It's going to cut off a fifth of the oil supply. It's going to raise the oil prices. And then you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, like, why are we doing this? Like, to whose benefit is it? Is it because Benjamin Netanyahu gets a lot of money from the U.S. and it's in our interest to, like, support Israel's interest because they want to, like, create regime change? But this is not the way to do it, by the way. Do you think, like, I don't know. I just think maybe the current administration in Israel, like, they're really bad at geopolitics, man. Like, it's not changing anything. I don't believe that you're going to get regime change by starting to bomb Iran. What you're going to do is this. What they're doing is this. You have a country that might have certain nuclear programs that you don't like, but they're part of nuclear accords where they have signed treaties to not participate in nuclear war, but, you know, they've actually signed those treaties. Okay, we're gonna hide that one because that's not really, we're a PG channel here, dear. So anyway, the whole point is, so I don't think that Israel has good foreign policy because they think that if they bomb Iran, that this is going to create regime change. The people of Iran feel attacked and they're gonna, like, stand up for their country. And any kind of natural regime change that was starting to happen within, by the way, which I feel like if you had been paying attention for the last 3 years, there were a lot of women and men that were standing up to the regime, that were, a lot of women have stopped wearing head coverings. Like, they're like, they will have regime change within. They don't need a country to bomb them. And that, by the way, anybody that wants to change their country and another country comes in and bombs them, they're being attacked. Like, if your country was attacked, you're not going to be like, wow, you know, I think that I should go tell my dictator that he should knock it off and stop it, so I will stop being bombed. I had this great analogy. It was like, just, Israel has the worst foreign policy. They do, because it's not going to create peace in the Middle East. But they don't want peace in the Middle East. I think what all this is at the end of the day is we have a president who's a narcissist, Trump, another leader who, I don't know, maybe he just likes to play war a lot. And then we have weapons manufacturers and military contractors. They're going to make a lot of money off this, right? It's a money-making scheme for some people, right? That's just what it is, pure and simple. It's not the conspiracy theory that, like, some people think it is. But I guess it's just how the world goes round. It's been like this forever, right? It would be nice in our modern times if we could just all live in peace and tranquility and have a better world, but I don't know. There's some people, they don't want that for you and me. We can relax. I just wanted to talk about the current events. So we're not going to change anything just as regular U.S. citizens. Like, we're not going to keep our country from going into another needless war. And I'm sure people have felt this way for hundreds of years. And I'm sure, like, when Europe was mired in religious wars, there were a lot of people who thought this was horrible and ridiculous, but they can't change it. They can't change it. Europe was kind of learned from their lessons, and after World War II, they decided that they wanted to live in peace. I mean, they wanted that before Hitler, but Hitler kind of ruined that for everybody. But I think living in peace would be so much better than creating more and more wars. You're not going to ever win with war. And nobody, and this is at the end of the day, where I just don't agree with the people who say, well, some human beings are collateral damage, that in order to get the bad guy, some innocent people are going to be hurt. No, many innocent people continue to be hurt. And as a person that's always been pro peace, with a knowledge that, yeah, sometimes war is necessary, I don't believe the bombing people is going to create the outcome that you want. It's just going to create havoc and friction. But the people in power, like Trump, Bibi, they'll be okay because, you know, they're at the top. And I know Trump likes to pretend like he's a person of the people, but it's funny, at the end of the day, him and Bill Clinton were kind of friends. Bill Clinton went to his wedding. He was involved with the elites. He's not like some working class guy that worked his way up to the tippy top. No, he's the younger son of an older son that was shunned because the older son had a dream not to run the Trump enterprises, but to become an airline pilot. And Trump, Grandpa Trump, told, I guess, Mary's dad that that was a glorified chauffeur. And I guess because he was so beleaguered just and treated so horribly, like, I don't agree with alcoholism. I don't think drinking is the way to deal with your woes. But just think about this, like, Donald Trump's older brother was so depressed and devastated by the way that their father treated them that he became an alcoholic, and that's how he dealt with, like, just the treatment in that family. And that's the turmoil that Trump grew up under. And I kind of see why now people think we should read this book, because, yeah, like, and Donald Trump's, like, family, like, disowned Mary. Like, she never got an inheritance from her grandpa when he passed away. It just seems like a very dysfunctional family, but they enjoy dysfunction. And I guess a lot of people like dysfunction. You know, a lot of people just enjoy dysfunction, like, that's their thing. But I just wanted to talk about that. And if you're feeling like, oh gosh, like, this doesn't make any sense, I don't think this is good, like, for the economy or for foreign policy, or a lot of these things seem unconstitutional, it's probably because they are. But hey, I don't know. I mean, I'm not thinking we're in full-blown dictatorship yet, but it kind of feels like Trump would love to go that way. I don't know. Like, I think he's testing the waters. I feel like this is just the beginning. I think he would like to go further and deeper with it. And yeah, it's not a good thing. We shouldn't be bombing Iran. No, that's not, but we shouldn't be doing it. And us people that are pro-peace, we're never going to be into unprovoked war. We're just not ever going to support that. Iran didn't attack us. If Israel wants to go do that, I don't agree with what they do at the end of the day. I just don't agree with that at all. That's on them. But I think their foreign policy is kind of dismal. And I don't think the U.S. should be, like, sending them money, period. Cut them off. And I would cut off all the countries. And we need to stop. But, this is never going to happen under Trump. So it's funny that people mention that. It will never happen under Trump. But hey, you know, if they want to do that. My iris is amazing. I don't know what we're talking about here. I don't have an iris. Anyway, thanks for watching.